By the way, I'm a fan.
All right, good morning. Welcome into the Out of Bounds show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone, driven by your next GMC Sierra truck, Fowler GMC, Pearl Brandon, and GMC Yukon or Yukon Denali, Fowler GMC, Pearl Brandon. You can hit FowlerGMC.com to see their selection, pre-owned and new, SUVs and trucks. We are live in the Bank Plus studio. Welcome in our friend Jeff Duncan, NOLA.com, Times-Picayune, Saints, NFL, LSU, among other things. And he joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Jeff Duncan, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. Good to hear from you, buddy.
Well, thanks for joining us. I thought about you the last few days because of Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos in the playoffs and how long you covered him and the book you wrote and all of that. And I'd like to start with, do you think Sean Payton is kind of the Phil Mickelson of NFL coaches? He's brilliant, super talented, going to be in the Hall of Fame, but sometimes takes risks when he doesn't need to. And what was your initial reaction when he decided to pass up the field goal in the first half yesterday before the weather got really bad, Jeff?
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of criticism of Sean today that's probably warranted. That play call, you can tell, is going to haunt him. Just listening to him after the game yesterday, he was already second-guessing the decision. There's a really good story by Seth Wickersham, by the way, to any of your listeners on ESPN.com. Got great access with Sean Payton after the game, goes into great detail on what went into that play call, everything involved. I thought it was an excellent piece. But, yeah, I think it's a fair criticism. And when I watched that play live, Bo, I really felt like they needed to take those points in a game like that where their defense was really playing well. Points were going to be invaluable. But I also knew that's how Sean works. I mean, he's aggressive. He likes to instill confidence in his team, and I think he felt like at that moment they had control of that game and they could really put New England behind the eight ball, and it didn't work. Ultimately, the play call itself was a bad one, and that's one he's going to have to live with for a long time, I think.
I agree with you. You felt like the backup quarterback, Jarrett Stidham, they kind of had the rhythm and tempo that they wanted. I never thought they really recovered after that, Jeff, on offense.
Yeah, I think it's fair. It felt like the air was let out of the balloon. The body language of the team kind of went down. Mm-hmm. They were able to cobble it back together, a couple of times. Missing field goals was killer. I felt like the one they missed right before halftime was a killer. They were driving, and the weather was still decent at that time. And that missed field goal, especially the way they handled that third down. I mean, it was a little overlooked play there, but Stidham had room to run and was not decisive, and then he kind of lost a yard on a scramble out of bounds. That ended up being a critical yard. There's just these small details in a game like that you just can't afford to squander, and I know that's going to eat at Sean Payton. He put so much time, he and his staff, into the details of the game, and they let that one, I think, slip away. An opportunity having that game at home, boy, it's going to be one he's going to regret for a long time. He's now 1-3 in championship games right now. One of them obviously was the NOLA no call, but that's a record that you cannot, you can't just explain away. I mean, that's certainly something that's notable.
Jeff Duncan on the Out of Bounds show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone, Hall of Fame voter, NFL. And we're talking, NFL and Sean Payton. But I want to go to the Saints. Were the Saints, did they make a run at Vrabel last year, Jeff?
They actually never interviewed Mike. They requested an interview. I think they were trying to arrange it, and it never materialized. He ended up, I think, going to New England before he ever even got to New Orleans.
Okay. Man, talk about, I could never figure out why the Titans did what they did. You've covered that team before. What did you understand He did a good job considering their personnel. Were you surprised that they broke off that relationship, Jeff?
Oh yeah, I mean, we talk all the time about dysfunctional ownership management. That was a perfect example. You had a great coach there. Everyone universally in the league respects Mike Vrabel and what he was doing there. And basically, you had a run in between him and Rand Carthon, the general manager, and they sided with the general manager. And that was a huge mistake. And I think they're paying the price for that. They paid the price for that since then. And look, that transfer of ownership there has been a little bit of a circus, and I think it shows it's really a trickle-down effect on the rest of the organization. And, Sean, I've used this quote before. Peyton quotes Bill Parcells saying, there's 10 to 12 teams in the league that are functional organizations that compete for titles, and the rest are just swimming in circles and can't stay out of their own way. And I think that's applicable here.
After an unbelievable run, do you think the Saints are in that boat too now?
I think they're certainly much better positioned than they were at this time a year ago. I think finding a quarterback in this league, the way the Saints did, is like, lagniappe. I mean, they got a guy in the second round that probably if you drafted today would be, a top 10 pick. That you have to credit the organization. They did their homework on Tyler Shuck. They were ahead of the game. I've talked to people. I mean, they were on targeting him in late fall of his senior year at Louisville. So they were able to identify a quality player at the most important position. And I think having the head coach now in place and the quarterback, I mean, that's what this league's all about. And I think it makes everything so much easier now to rebuild this roster. But they still got a long way to go, Bo. I mean, when you watch these games the last few weeks, you just see the talent level across the board and the depth. This thing's still going to take some time, but I think there's learning lessons in how the Patriots were built and how the Seahawks were built. The Saints can apply to try and get back in the playoff hunt.
Okay, so you're sold, and the franchise is sold on Tyler Shuck, right?
Correct.
Okay. Are you a Louisville grad?
Of course, I'm probably biased there, right?
No, I don't mean that, because you shoot straight. I mean that's why I like having you on. You're, if the Saints or whoever we're talking about are doing well, you give everybody a ton of credit. If they're not, you call people out. That for some reason that just popped in my mind. I was like, Duncan's a U of L alum. All right, so Shuck, good, So in the NFL, you can flip it. Like in 5, you can. It doesn't always happen, but you just referenced McDonald with the Seahawks and Vrabel with the Patriots. Are the Saints capable of doing enough work in the offseason to put themselves in position to get in the playoffs? Yeah.
Well, especially in NFC South. You see how winnable that division is, but I think you've got some changes in Atlanta. That's a talented team. They've got to have another great offseason. I thought their offseason a year ago with the draft, getting Kelvin Banks and Tyler Shuck and some of the trades that were made, kind of underrated trades, small trades, but really helped bolster the roster. They had a good year in the offseason. They have to have another one. And look at what New England did in Mike Vrabel's first year. I was just doing a little work on that, Bo. Bringing in, Stephon Diggs, drafting Will Campbell and Travion Henderson, bringing in Josh McDaniels as offensive coordinator. That offense went from like 31st in the league to second in the league in 1 year. So it can happen, but you really have to hit on a lot of things: personnel, scheme, coaching, and that's what the Saints have in front of them. But it can be done, especially when you have your left tackle and your quarterback kind of taken care of.
Okay. Jeff Duncan, New Orleans Saints insider on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. See, how about that, Jackson Meadows? Are you excited about your team now? That's Duncan's in on Shuck, Detillier, the front office. So you may have something going on. Because, Jeff, I was at that December 15th game, and, man, you're going to have a great time at a Saints game either way. And we had fun, but, I mean, the place was dead, so yeah. I think people are looking to get this thing, back rocking, and And like you said, maybe Shuck and the left tackle can among other things can get this thing rolling. I want to switch gears with you. You're a Hall of Fame voter. I had a blast sitting at the table with you and I think two other Hall of Fame voters the week of the Super Bowl, and just listening to y'all, talk about the NFL, and as long as all y'all have covered it. So Drew Brees and Larry Fitzgerald are in this class, and according to everybody, and you may disagree, but they're a slam dunk. So who else do you, I don't know how much you can say and so on, but how many do you think get in? Who else do you think gets in? And do you believe that Brees and Fitzgerald are slam dunks?
Well, let me hedge a little bit, and I don't like to hedge, but I thought Luke Kuechly and Adam Vinatieri were slam dunks a year ago, and neither one made it on first ballot. We have a new voting process that I think has thrown a little bit of a wrench in the entire selection process. I won't go into the details. We don't have time, but it caused us to only have 3 modern eligible candidates a year ago when we have a maximum of 5, and we already have a bottleneck of candidates that I think are deserving to be in Canton. So we really couldn't afford to only put 3 modern candidates in a year ago, and I think that was a byproduct of this new process. Hopefully we get that corrected. So I just wanted to qualify that, because I think Kuechly and Vinatieri should have been in a year ago. And now they're going to be a part of this class that's really backing up things. And let me even take it a step further, Bo. Next year, you have first ballot players like Adrian Peterson, Ben Roethlisberger, Richard Sherman, Antonio Brown, Andrew Whitworth. I mean, we're talking about quality candidates next year. So, the bottleneck's not going to get solved any, especially for players like, you're probably going to ask about Eli Manning, right?
Yes.
Reggie Wayne's a New Orleans, native as well. He's been on the ballot 9 years waiting to get in. It's a challenge that we have. And some people on the committee have a philosophy. If you feel like they deserve to be in Canton, the one that's been waiting longer should go in first. That's how some people view it. Others view it as, I'm just voting for the best people, most deserving people each year, and I'm going to put them in. And I understand both sides of that. So that's why we have a 50-person committee, and it makes these selection meetings that we have so difficult because of the debate over who deserves to be in out of 15 quality candidates.
All right. So Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald. I agree with you on Vinatieri and Luke Kuechly. Good grief. So where does that leave Eli and some of the other guys? Jeff? Well,
I think everyone's probably fighting for one spot in my mind. Now, that might not be how everybody else in the committee feels, but that's how I viewed it, is those 4 are the strongest cases, and then you've got one open spot. And, I have to make the presentation every year for Jari Evans, who I think is a deserving Hall of Fame candidate. I mean, he was a 4-time first-team All-Pro. He was an all-decade selection at guard. I've tried to argue about those great Saints offenses and use the team approach when I argued for Jari Evans. Those were dominant offenses. I mean, we're talking about offenses that changed the NFL, Bo. They broke 17 NFL records, not Saints records, NFL records during their tenure. And that team won a Super Bowl. I tried to argue that the 2009 Saints team was one of the great teams in the last 10, 20 years. I mean, they started 13-0. They beat 3 Hall of Famers on the way to the title. And yet there's still no Hall of Famers from that team. When every Super Bowl champion for the first 4 decades has had at least 2 Hall of Famers. So There's a lot of arguments you can make for people, but there's also quality candidates otherwise, with someone like Eli Manning, who won 2 Super Bowls and, beat the great Tom Brady teams both times. There's something to be said for making those kind of plays and that he made in those moments to lead your team to a title. I think he's definitely deserving of Canton. It's just a matter of, I look at it a lot. My analogy, it's a bad one probably, is it's like a beauty contest. They're all beautiful. All the candidates are beautiful. It's very subjective who you think is the most beautiful.
And so when's the final vote for this year, Jeff?
We've already had it. We've already voted. But we don't know who got in, and that's the thing. The new process does not allow the selection committee insight into actual who the class is. We find out the day that the announcement is made at the NFL honors. That's the way it's gone the last few years. They're trying to preserve the confidentiality of the class, and I understand that. In the past, there's been inevitable leaks that happen after the vote, before the class was announced, and they're trying to avoid that, and I certainly understand it.
And is that next week? Is that right?
Yes, the NFL honors the Thursday before the Super Bowl. You'll find out the class of 2026.
All right. Hey, God, Reggie Wayne has been on the ballot for 9 years. Is that what you said, Jeff Duncan?
Well, he's been a finalist for 9 years.
Okay.
I mean, he's been on the ballot probably a little longer. Sam Mills got in a few years ago, if you remember, Bo.
Yeah.
His last year of eligibility as a modern era candidate, his 20th year, he finally got in. So his family had to wait that long. So it's a difficult decision. Do you put in someone that's deserving, that's waited longer, or do you put in the person you think deserves to go in because they have a stronger case? I see both sides of that argument.
Is this debated within the voters that or do y'all just all kind of think through it to yourself?
No. The way it works, and I'll just explain it very quickly, is each finalist of the 15 each year has a selection committee member that makes a 5-minute presentation. Basically, you're making a case for their Hall of Fame candidacy. I'm the New Orleans representative, so I have Drew Brees and Sean Payton. Drew Brees and Jari Evans. And I make the 5-minute case, then it opens up the floor for discussion, and that debate can go on sometimes for over an hour on one player, where everyone else is weighing in why that merits good and bad, why they don't think they're going to vote for that person. It gets intense. That meeting often goes 8 to 10 hours, that selection committee meeting. And then we vote from once all those presentations are made, we actually have a vote and whittle the field down to 10. Then we open back up for more discussion, and then we have another vote to get down to 7. It's a selection process of whittling down. But at the end, each member of the class has to have received at least 80% of the vote to get into Canton. And I think that is what last year we came up short with, just 3, because we didn't have 5 people get 80% of the vote.
Damn. Is this long marathon 8 to 10 hour meeting? Is it over one day, or y'all break it up?
No, it's one day. It's an all day sucker.
Wow. Do you, at the end of, so it's a lot of work. But do you, at the end of the day, do you enjoy it? Or at the end of the year? I mean, you're going through this process year to year is what I mean.
Well, I think I don't know if enjoy is the right word. I think it's important, and I really take it seriously. There's a responsibility inherently to that role where you feel like you're somewhat representing the players and their legacy and their families. So I think it's an obligation you have to do as much work as you can to represent that person. And I take it very seriously. I do a lot of work in making that presentation, and I involve the candidates themselves. Drew Brees and Jari Evans are involved in trying to state their case. I want them to feel like I'm representing them as best I can. But in the end, you're at the whims of the selection committee, and there's a very strong voting block there. People have covered the league for decades. They put a lot of work in. We have Hall of Famers on the committee. You know, James Lofton, Dan Fouts, Bill Polian, Tony Dungy. There's not just media reps. There's former players and coaches and GMs as well.
Damn. Okay. So you made your presentation on Brees and Evans, and this was your first year for Brees because this is the first time for him to be eligible, right?
Correct. And I'll just say this real quick. In the past, to save everyone, the trouble on these really strong candidates, Brett Favre is a good example. Brett Favre, no one even made a case for him. Everyone felt like he was such a slam dunk. We didn't even debate him in the room. I think some people chimed in at the end, but there was no 5-minute presentation. They've the Hall of Fame has actually encouraged us now to do the full presentation as a way of honoring and respecting the player's candidacy and legacy.
Okay.
So I did make a full 5-minute presentation on Drew Brees, even though I felt like I didn't need to.
Okay.
You never know. I learned that lesson last year with what I felt like Kuechly and Vinatieri didn't get in.
Dang. How many years have you been a Hall of Fame, Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, Jeff?
I think this is my 11th.
Dang.
So we were successful in getting Morton Anderson and Willie Rofe and Sam Mills in. So I feel there's some gratification in that. Enjoyed sharing that experience with those guys.
Okay. Do you think Loomis will have a chance at the Hall of Fame?
I think he's probably going to need another Super Bowl.
Okay.
I certainly think he will merit it if he gets another Super Bowl.
Okay. Do you
Same
think
with Sean Payton? I don't think Sean Payton is in the Hall of Fame yet. I've told him that. I mean,
really?
He disagrees, but I think he's got to at least get back to the big game, and winning one would certainly cement it. I mean, he would be the first head coach ever to win with two different franchises, so that would probably be a shoe-in.
Okay. All right. That was going to be my next question. If you thought Sean Payton was a slam dunk, and you don't yet. Okay. And man, look at what happened yesterday. All right. Jeff Duncan, NOLA.com on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. That was a ton of fun, man. And thanks for hanging out with us. You know what I'd like to do when it's announced next week, maybe the next week or whenever, get you back on for you to talk about who did get in and who didn't get in, Jeff.
Yeah, anytime. I'd love to do it. We can also discuss the lane train at some point. That's fascinating theater down Baton Rouge.
Oh my gosh! I mean, y'all, you already have plenty of content because you cover the Saints and Pelicans and other things going on in New Orleans. But now with Lane there, I mean, it's teed up. The guy's a maniac, brilliant, flawed machine. That's just nuts. And LSU is definitely going to be back and winning. Jeff Duncan, we'll talk soon. Thank you, my friend.
All right, Bo. Take care, buddy.
NOLA.com, Tom's Picayune, joined us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. Competitive rates are powered by Farm Bureau Insurance. For Jackson Meadows, I'm your host, Bo Bounds. Be careful, be safe out there. And I thought it was a pretty good show today. Hell of a weekend in sports. And yesterday was wild between Patriots, Broncos, and Seahawks and Rams. Now we got the Patriots, Jackson, and the Seahawks playing in Santa Clara in the San Francisco area for the Super Bowl. And we will have that announcement, I guess, next Thursday. Not this Thursday, but next Thursday, as far as the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame class. Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald. Who else? See you tomorrow.